A few hours ago, literally while I was in the process of working on our last video talking about the problems with Necropolis League, GGG dropped their first What We're Working On post to the league. Hi, it's Lerald, and I'm going to talk about that post, but before I do, be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy this video. To no one's surprise, this is a bunch of quality of life improvements and just straight up buffs to the Necropolis League mechanic, so let's look at that post now. Hi everyone, thanks for all the feedback and bingo cards. To get straight to the point of the improvements to the league, here's what we're currently doing today in the studio. Our hope is to get each change out as soon as it's ready. Area to area or map to map gameplay will be allowing you to itemize corpses as they drop, so you can choose to collect the corpse or itemize it for free. As a result, itemizing corpses in all contexts will now be free as opposed to the 1 chaos orb it currently costs. This isn't a huge deal. This is a good quality of life change. It'll reduce a little bit of the cost, well, literally 100% of the cost, but a little bit of the friction of itemizing corpses and selling them. It doesn't really do all that much. It just sort of makes it so that, like, if you're selling a lot of corpses as some sort of strategy, that now doesn't incur a 1 chaos per corpse cost. And it's something that you don't have to do in the Necropolis area, the graveyard itself. You can do this when you pick up the corpse instead of clicking to collect the corpse and send it into your Necropolis area. You can just put it directly into your inventory. That's probably for the best for people who are specifically making a strategy out of farming corpses. Being able to put them into your inventory and then throw them into a specific dump tab, probably a good thing. Each of the downsides from area to area will now display the increase to the amount of collectible corpses and all flame embers they cause. We will be increasing the amount of collectible corpses and all flame embers dropping relative to difficult mods substantially. Okay, so both of these are good. It's more information, which I think is kind of in line with what the theme of the whole league mechanic is. And then substantially, you know, that's sort of a vague number or vague amount. But usually in the case of GGG, that's anywhere from like 200% to 1000%. So that does mean that there's going to be a more significant reward for difficult mods, and that is a good thing. We will be further increasing the amount of all flame members dropping additionally to the above. So they're boosting the amount of all flame members just across the board. It'll be more often from difficult monster mods, but also just in general, more all flame members all the time. This really is going to incentivize basically using all flame members, like probably every single map, using all flame members, maybe multiple per map, depending on just how much more common they are, or potentially for people who don't want to use them, don't really care to interact with them, maybe it'll be some sort of currency farming strategy. If there is a lot of good ones, a lot of rewarding ones, as the next slide says, we'll be adding new all flame member packs that are more rewarding, and we'll be revising the rewards and pack sizes from existing all flame member packs and in-game to make them substantially more rewarding also. So they're kind of hearing a lot of the feedback, and I mean, some of the feedback that I felt like I had as well. I thought the tattoos coming back with all flame members was very cool. I have done quite a few of the Karui packs to get tattoos, and I've maybe gotten like 4 tattoos thus far in the league, which doesn't really seem all that great. I think some of the times that I've done like Chayula monsters, I think I've gotten in the T16 map like 10 Chayula Breachstone fragments. That doesn't seem super rewarding. I know I saw a post on the front page of Reddit, and I did the same thing to test myself a couple of times, like putting in for the most common mob in a map, put in the tainted currency dropping beyond mobs, so just see how many they give you. And their experience was none. My experience over the course of several maps was none. So hopefully this is going to be substantially rewarding. And I mean, I think that's the intention. That's certainly how all flame ember packs should work. I think the biggest criticism I had of the all flame embers was the fact that they're itemized and they fill up this Necropolis locker, and it is so incredibly finite. You know, there's, what is this? 5 times 6, is this 30? Is this really only 30? I thought I counted 32 before when I was looking previously, but maybe I miscounted, or I don't know. Either way, this is not enough space for this, especially if they're going to increase the drop rate of them. So I would like to see them increase the size of this stash. Or, you know, maybe if they are substantially more rewarding, and maybe if they're also like a little bit less dangerous, maybe it'll be a genuine incentive to shove a bunch of these guys into every single map. I'm okay with that, right? Just like retooling all of the monsters in a given map to be all Flame Ember packs. I think that could be cool if they are meaningfully rewarding. We'll also be making devoted modifiers more rewarding, notably the ones that are granting currency items, and we'll be lowering the danger of the more dangerous modifiers, especially at in-game. Okay, so that has a very clear interaction with this bottom left circle of Necropolis passives. You have the devoted modifier chance, the two small passives here, they give you 10% increased chance for devoted mods, and devout pursuit, which gives you a 20% increased chance for 30% total. Then you have these two haunted modifiers over here that for some reason increase haunted modifiers. I don't really get what the point of that is, other than I guess you're supposed to get more collectible corpses and all Flame Embers from the haunted mods, and so presumably that would also increase that, sort of similar to the way that like the top hat, all these increased modifier effect also increase like quantity and rarity. Presumably that would increase like maybe quantity and rarity on the monsters, but at least the amount of corpses and all Flame Embers that they're throwing at you. I still think that these two over here, the 20% reduced effect of haunted modifiers on monsters in your maps, if you're going to be doing one of these strategies where you're kind of juicing Necropolis as a mechanic, I still feel like these two nodes here make a lot more sense than these two on this side. But either way, I think really the idea is just simply getting the devoted modifiers, getting more of those, getting more of a chance to, you know, as they've said, notably the ones that are granting currency items are going to be more rewarding. If you're going to be able to get like, I don't know, a couple stacks of chaos, or maybe actually get some divine orbs out of the devoted modifiers somewhat often, I think that's pretty good, pretty appealing. Now I want to move on to the real moneymaker. They kind of buried the lead here. Grave crafting, you will now be able to select the base type of the item you want to craft. This is really good. Like the idea that you could have perfect explicit stats on a belt or on a piece of gear and it's just the wrong base, and so it's just totally worthless, was, you know, kind of a nightmare. And it's sort of a problem with the way that PoE 1 gear has been designed for now a decade, I suppose. But, you know, it is what it is. Ultimately, you got to have the right base for pieces of gear to be any good. And so being able to just let players deterministically choose the base that they want to start crafting from, this is really good. Now, because of this, obviously, they don't need the crafts that allow you to determine whether it's a strength, dex, or int armor type. Those obviously should go. No need. They have also said that some of the base types, like Atlas base types, so we're talking like studded gauntlets, the basically all the pieces of armor that come with an implicit fugitive boots, so like the Chaos Res boots. All of those are kind of made irrelevant for the most part by the existence of Eldritch implicits, but yeah, okay, you can't just freely select those. You do have to find a meta crafting corpse to be able to make those. The most notable one here is Stygian Vice. Stygian Vice, you can't just go, all right, I'm just going to make a Stygian Vice for free. You do have to find those corpses. So I imagine that farming Stygian Vice corpses, farming the meta corpses by taking this node in the top right corner here, the meta crafting modifier or meta modifier crafting outcomes. I think it's a meta mod. It's definitely not a unique one or a modifier tier rating mod, so I'm pretty confident it's meta mod. I think that farming those will probably be somewhat valuable once this patch is once this has gone through and the crafting system has been substantially upgraded. They're also increasing the chances of getting some of the rarer crafts like fractured modifiers and mirrored outcomes. I don't really know how valuable the mirrored outcomes are. Maybe if you manage to craft something really amazing and then you can get two of them for the price of one, that's good, but the fractured modifiers is potentially very good. Fractured modifiers are such a good thing for crafting. So like, even if you could just get a really valuable fractured modifier and the rest of the item is crap, that still can be very useful. A T1 fractured lightning Imperial Claw is, you know, well into a league, dozens of divines. And you could look at like, that's not even a super high value base. You compare that to like a spine bow with a really good fractured modifier, you know, that can be dozens or hundreds of divines. So this is pretty good for high-end crafters. This is going to be a real godsend. We've removed the tiers for most of the crafts. They'll now have the value of the existing highest tiers always. For example, instead of being able to get 200 or 500% increased chance for lightning modifiers, it will now always be 500%. Okay, I'm going to go back to the graveyard to kind of show this off. All right, so here I have just a handful of lightning things that have been planted, and basically instead of 200% chance some of the time and 500% chance some of the time, it'll always be 500% increased chance of lightning modifiers. Presumably it'll always be the lightning modifiers are scarcer. That number will always be the maximum. I think that's 100% scarcer, but whatever. The point is that it will be always the absolute maximum when it comes to trying to force a specific type of modifier. That is good. The next line here is really, really interesting. We've taken all the crafts that affect the modifier rating and compressed it into a single craft that affects all modifiers instead of being type specific. This will not affect existing crafts you have. Those will stop dropping and the new one will start dropping once it's deployed. Basically, it seems like what this is going to do is if I type in modifier tier, basically this is going to take all of these stats, all of them, speed modifier tier, lightning modifier tier, physical modifier tier. It's going to consolidate all of these into a single stat that just increases modifier tier rating. I think this is going to significantly reduce the complexity of the high-end crafting. It just makes the floor come way up on crafting as well. If you're able to stack a ton of modifier tier rating into a craft and then specifically nail down the type of modifiers that you're looking for, you're going to come out of it with a much higher base level item. Again, the floor has been raised substantially just by making this change. You'll be able to directly use coffins on your list of corpses in your morgue panel instead of trying to find them within the morgue. So instead of having to run over here into this room full of bodies with the coffins that you buy from Aramor, you'll be able to just use them on this list here, which means you can do it in your hideout, technically speaking. That's good. That's fine. Control F will go to the search. Currently must be clicked. Yeah, this right here, if you hit Control F, it doesn't do anything. And that will click that for you. That's good. That's good. That's something that people have been asking for. This is really it for me. We will be sorting crafts by their type instead of by level, making it much easier to find crafts that affect a specific type of modifier like fire modifiers. Now, I wanted some sort of tabs over on the side, fire, lightning, speed, elemental, etc., that you could just click and it would filter out everything that's not a part of the tabs that you've clicked, but this works. Sorting all of the physical modifiers together, all the life modifiers, all the cold modifiers, all the caster modifiers, sorting all of the modifiers together so that you're able to very easily see what you have of a specific type instead of having to every single time type speed. I think that's good. And then finally, the grave crafts that reroll sockets and links have been significantly buffed. Okay, good, great. This will probably make it so that it's pretty trivially easy to get a 6 link out of this league mechanic. And again, I think that really just raises the floor. For high-end players, getting more 6 links is never really going to be that challenging. There's a lot of ways to do it, and that's great, but for average players, for beginner players, getting a 6 link is a pretty substantial accomplishment, and that is probably something that should be made easier when the league mechanic is a crafting league. It probably should facilitate that and reduce some of the friction for the majority of players. All right, now there's a little bit more here. There's a lot more happening in between the cracks, but instead of me getting into all of that, I'm focusing my attention towards getting the fixes ready faster, as that is what's most important, or more important. I will update more as we're making more changes. This is just what we're immediately working on, and we'll do more as soon as it's needed and we have resources available. The long weekend here unfortunately cost us the capability to respond to larger changes as fast as we'd like, and a huge lesson going forward is to make sure we don't deploy expansions on public holiday weekends, as we don't have the personnel available to make changes as fast as we want. Yeah, that's probably a good call, to not drop leagues on holiday weekends. Blizzard's done that a whole bunch of times with raid races, dropping them on Thanksgiving weekend, and always a little bit tough when that happens. But ultimately, I think the league's going to come through pretty well. I think this is all pretty great news. It's almost exactly what I was hoping to hear. Ultimately, there are still some changes I would like to see. I would like to see some more quality of life with the stash for the All Flame members. This thing right here, it really should be larger. Honestly, I would love to see the All Flame members not even be an inventory thing, but I think that ship has kind of already sailed. Ultimately, I am pretty happy with where things are moving. This is all looking really, really good so far. I do think the league is on the right track now. Things are looking up. I also realize this means that some of them worked through the holiday weekend, and I really appreciate them doing that for all of us. You know, the game is definitely in a really good state right now, and I know a lot of people appreciate the speed with which they're responding, but I just also want to say I really appreciate the speed with which they are responding to this league start. It wasn't up to everybody's expectations, but they are doing, they're doing the work to make it be good, and that is a good thing. And I think that pretty much covers it. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and thank you for watching. Bye.